That way. Hey guys, Doug the Retirement Guy here. We got a review of the Roundhill Bitcoin Covered Call Strategy ETF, YBTC. Now, these funds have really been hit hard. They've gotten bad reviews from the start. But we wanted to go over this one since Bitcoin has had a good solid run and it's been up, it's been down, but everything's looking at Bitcoin could be the future of currency. So we wanted to see where we're at here. They advertise a 47.69 dividend yield. So we want to see, is this really a fund to be invested with? YBTC is the Bitcoin covered call. The first thing is, I really want to specify, this fund offers exposure to the exchange traded products, ETPs, that have the direct exposure to Bitcoin. So what is it really saying there? You are not buying, or YBTC is not investing into actual Bitcoin. They're buying other ETFs that have been invested into it. So they don't have the money invested, but they're doing, again, buying calls of another stock. Their distribution, 43.5, 30-day SEC yield, which is solid, of 3.75. And if you've been watching this channel, you probably already know that means they have some heavy bonds that they've invested into to create a steady cash flow. Expense ratio 0.95. Again, these are always high expenses because they are weekly paying funds. So let's get into the highlights of the YPT Holdings. And you can see the very first one, 88% of the fund is all done with United States Treasury bills. So you can see this one here, they expire on 5/1. You'll see a change over the next couple weeks, what they will reinvest that $152 million into. You'll probably see it being done on Treasury bills or bonds farther out. As you see farther down, the government obligation fund, which is all the way out to 2031. So you'll see some of that stuff. They'll probably get much longer. And then the second one you see is the iShares Bitcoin ETF fund. And that's really what they're selling the calls on. So the question is, why do you want YBTC in your portfolio? Well, right off the bat, it's going to come that you're trying to get the big return on your money. You're trying to get those big dividends that you want to have. Advertising 43.05 return is strong, but the question is, are they actually paying that, and are you actually going to receive that in your pocketbook? When you're looking at big double digits like that, you got to be careful because this is going to include your dividends, your interest, and any capital gains or capital losses. So you got to calculate that out. Now, here's the big one that really gets me excited is that it's the weekly dividend payout. They're not guaranteed, but when you look at a weekly dividend payout, you get a cash flow every single week. Now, what I like to do with this is, I hate to say it, I like to take it and reinvest it. Put it into itself that in 30 days, you're going to have a huge cash flow. So it's like I'm doing both, reinvesting and getting a regular cash flow between the two, strictly because it's coming out weekly. Take a look at the return. Now, I've been studying this one, and I believe I've said this earlier, that we do actually own some of these shares, and we'll cover that to show you exactly what we've done. But when you take a look at this fund when it first came out, right above that $50 mark, it's had a roller coaster ride up and down and price wise. And we take a first arrow we look at is the March, I call it March Madness. It was the big March drop off. And that's when we saw a big drop in the fund. Then we come back and see the April tariff issue. And you don't see it drop off as much as it did in March. It kind of held its own. And over the past 20 plus days, 25 days, you can see where it's come all the way back up to the high point. So it's really recovered what it's supposed to have done in, like you see a lot of other stocks that dropped in March, dropped again in April, and are now trying to find their way out. These guys were able to get out of it fairly quickly. When we look at the bottom, 1 month out, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. They're up 2.43%. Now, 6 months, they're down 7.89%. Year to date, they're down 15.52%. And 1 year, they're down 17.42%. Like I said, the way you look at this is what's it currently doing? They're becoming positive in the month of April. 6 months, you're taking some of the last year's and then the two bad drop-offs in March and April, and that's going to affect your number. The same thing with the year to date. You're really only looking at this as a 4 months into it. So you've had 2 bad months, February, March, and then April slowly showing that it's going to be probably a good month. Now we also take a look at the dividend chart. And this is the one that I was expecting to see more bounce to. And you can see where this thing was up at that $2 $4 mark and then dropped down to the 2, and now it's down to the 45 cent. But it's holding hard at that 45 cent mark. And what that's telling me is that they found their mark of what is affordable, what can they afford to do, and the process that they've had, and they're holding tight. I really want to say this is almost misleading. When they were doing $4 and $2, they were trying to get everybody and their brother in to invest into the YBTC. Now that they've gotten their dollar amount, they've gotten where they want to be, now they're going to give you just a steady income on a regular basis. So this report here that we do too on every stock is that we put in a $10,000 calculator. That is basically we invest $10,000 into YPTC and take a look at what would happen in the past history. So last April, we would have bought shares at $51.16, which would buy 195 shares. We go all the way out to March, well, we're down $10 a share. So we've lost dramatically, and then you add in April, and basically, guys, if you bought this a year ago, you're down 16.71% in your funds. Now, everyone was going to be bragging, I'm getting $20 a year annually on income, on dividends. So I'm making 39.72%. It's less than that 43 that they advertised, but 39% is a strong number. And this is what I talk about in the past is you really are getting a 23% return on your money because 16% of it has to come from your loss of your NAV. So if I told you I had a stock that made 23%, you'd probably want to watch every video I have. And this is what we have here. So it's kind of balancing. You got to take some of your dividend that you have, and this is like our old 70-30 program. 70% you can put in your pocket, 30% you got to reinvest back into your stocks to cover for your NAV loss. Now my purchases, I'll give you this. I bought this in February at $40.36. Now this is not trying to show of, wow, I did a great buy, I did it at the right time. I just been watching this one for a long period of time and said, hey, this is well below average. This is well below the marks that we want to have. So I thought it was time to buy. So you can see over the past 3 months, we have gained 5.57%. We've also gained 7.85% or $784 in dividend income. So already I'm looking at a 13.42% return over 3 months. So it comes into, if you buy at the right times, things are going to work. If you buy at the wrong time, the long haul, you're gonna play the game. Now here's the thing that gets me though: will $40 hold out, or are we too? Is it still gonna be too high? We'll see, and we'll update this as we go through. So here's the price chart. So you want to know how I got to when I got my buy signal. When did you know that was time to buy? And here's where it comes into. YBTC first off shows me on a line chart that's a fairly smooth. There's a little, we'll call it bump in the road that went high, but then come right back down. So what we always look at is the 52-week average. So at 52-week average, it's $46.81. The current cost is $42.61. So that's an 8.9% below average price. So if you bought today, I would tell you you're below average 8.9%. If the market's kind of settled down and chilled out, you probably have a 9% gain in this stock alone, plus the dividend. So I still believe this is a price where you want to buy and you want to own some of these shares. But anytime for me, when that thing gets below a 10% mark and I see a line like it is, I always question, is this it's time to buy? Not really are we hitting bottom, but the question is, what's happening? If I saw this dropping from 50 all the way down to 42 in a straight arrow line, that tells me it's heading farther south and you stay out of it. But when you have one with a bump in the road and everything laying flat, when you're buying below, it's kind of like you're buying on sale. So I highly recommend, and this is how I did it, is where we hit the $40 point. But even right now, I probably would put more money into it at 42 because I believe you have a 9% growth. A little ahead of myself, but the answer is YBTC good for a retirement account? The answer is yes. And you see that we've marked it as a moderate buy. But I will say this to retirement people. This is not a fund that you're going to take your retirement, all your retirement, or a big portion of your retirement and put it into this because you're getting big dividends. What I'm doing is I'm taking a portion of my retirement fund and I'm putting it into this. And when I say a portion, we're talking less than 5 points. We're putting it into it to generate bigger dollar income. but we're also making sure that we're pulling that money out. We're not using it for living off of yet, but we're pulling money out to re-put it back into our retirement fund so that we're going to work off the bank's money or off the house's money. The 39.72% dividend is great, but you got to remember you got your NAV loss that you got to worry about. I'm hoping if you buy it timed right, you won't have NAV loss. As right now, it's 16.71. It's not great. But if you buy it timing right, keep it under that 52-week average, you're going to be safe. That's why we put it as a moderate buy. Guys, this is Doug, the Retirement Guy. If you like what we're doing, give us that click on that. Just give us that thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Don't miss any of the videos that we're getting done. And also, if you haven't liked it or disagree with me on what we've done, add it to the comment. Everything helps the channel grow. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.